Once again, today's gospel is appropriate for our circumstances. Thank you for the proclamation, Carmel Purdy. Jesus invites us to come and share our burdens. And what an unusually burdensome year 2020 has been for us Australians. Fire and drought, and now this insidious uncertainty of COVID-19, particularly for us here in Melbourne. The National Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander Catholic Council, NATSIC, statement for this special Sunday calls on us to place our trust in God and try even harder to embody the much needed gifts of empathy, friendship and love for one another. NATSIC Sunday, of course, comes as we in Australia join in the worldwide chorus, Black Lives Matter. Now, I think we face some difficulties, though, as I don't know about you, but I seldom come across Aboriginal people. And so I think subconsciously I can think, oh, well, this Black Lives Matter is an American issue. Please, I ask that we don't neglect the appalling statistics that 437 Aboriginals have died in custody since the 1991 Royal Commission. There have been no convictions, and in fact we're still waiting for any of the recommendations to be implemented. Can you just imagine the hullabaloo that would be caused if the Catholic Church hasn't put into place any of the recommendations from the Royal Commission on Sexual Abuse? Oh. But it's not just that Australian Aborigines are the most incarcerated people on the planet, as the 2017 Uluru Statement from the Heart so shockingly reminds us. 1% of Victorians are Aboriginal, and yet we have 10% in jail. Why is it so, is a question we ought to be asking. The theological message of the story of creation in the Bible reminds us that creation is God's gift for us, and that God did not create separate races, folks. Sherry Balcom, Catholic Aboriginal Ministry Coordinator, has an article in this week's Articles of Interest. Sherry writes from the heart of her own experiences. Please read the whole article. But in part, Sherry says this: the racism in this country is a disgrace, and unless you've experienced it, you won't understand what it is like to be Aboriginal. Her article, while uncomfortable, is in fact full of hope. I'd like to quote again from her article. And she says, I have much hope for the future, not for my generation, but for younger people. The next generation will hopefully stamp out this systemic racism that is so much part of Australia's fabric. The younger people will change things for the better and make our world a better place. Sherry continues, it'll be a better place for my grandchildren, I hope. They'll not be judged by their skin colour. They'll be a gift to their country, Australia. They will walk in two worlds, yes, and they will share their culture with the whole world. They will do it with dignity. That's what this NATSIC Sunday is about. Dignity. Being proud of your race and not being discriminated against just because you are Aboriginal. As Martin Luther King said all those years ago, I have a dream. And Sherry asks, will you join me on this journey? Will you teach your children and grandchildren about the oldest, longest, continuous culture on this planet? Will you teach them that we must take responsibility for this land that God has created for us to use? Will you teach your children and grandchildren that our culture is so rich that it's endured incredible obstacles, genocide, stolen generations, black deaths, and more? Will you help to make the dream a reality? Asks Sherry. Please educate herself is her plea. Knowledge is power. Join us all on the journey of truth, telling us about this country, Australia. And finally, folks, I just want to mention the Facebook entry that we have this week concerning Natsik Sunday. It has an article by a Fordham University theologian, and it quotes and identifies 6 things that white people can do to bring about change. Among these challenges are, this priest theologian suggests, trying to understand the difference between being uncomfortable or being threatened. Again, he suggests pray, because at its deepest level, racism is deep down a soul sickness, a sin. May I finish today with a couple of questions. One is asking of you, do you believe that there's racism here in Melbourne? And secondly, are you prepared to pay the price? If you say yes to that first question. And thirdly, are you glad that you're white, not Aboriginal? That's a big one, isn't it? Are you glad that you're white, not Aboriginal? Thank you.